Once upon a time, in a lush and vibrant forest, there lived a wise old turtle named Timothy. Timothy was known throughout the forest for his wisdom and kindness. Animals from far and wide would come to seek his advice and guidance. One sunny morning, a young rabbit named Rosie hopped into Timothy's clearing, looking worried. "Oh, Timothy," she cried, "I've lost my way. I was trying to find a shortcut through the forest, and now I don't know how to get back home." Timothy smiled gently at Rosie and said, "Don't worry, my dear. I can help you find your way back home, but first, let me share a story with you." Rosie was intrigued and sat down to listen. Timothy began, "A long time ago, there was a young rabbit just like you named Benny. Benny was always in a hurry and never took the time to learn about the forest he lived in. One day, he decided to take a shortcut through the dense woods to get home quickly. But he didn't know the way very well, and he ended up getting lost." Rosie listened intently as Timothy continued. Benny was scared and didn't know what to do. He roamed around the forest for days, hungry and tired. Finally, a wise old owl came to his rescue. The owl guided Benny safely back home, but Benny learned an important lesson that day. Shortcuts can often lead to trouble. Rosie nodded, understanding the morale of the story. "So, Timothy, what should I do now?" Timothy smiled kindly and said, "Well, Rosie, the morale of the story is that it's essential to take your time and learn about your surroundings. Instead of looking for shortcuts, embrace the journey and the lessons it brings. Now let me help you find your way back home." Timothy gave Rosie clear directions, teaching her about the landmarks and plants along the way. Rosie listened carefully and thanked Timothy before hopping on her way. As the days passed, Rosie grew wiser and more patient. She no longer sought shortcuts, but took the time to explore the forest and appreciate its beauty. She made new friends, learned about the different plants and animals, and felt a deeper connection to her home. One day, a young squirrel named Sammy came to Timothy, just as Rosie had done before. Sammy had heard about Rosie's adventure and wanted to learn from Timothy's wisdom. Timothy greeted Sammy warmly and shared another story. "Once upon a time," Timothy began, "there was a young squirrel named Sally. She was always in a hurry to gather nuts for the winter, and she thought she could find a shortcut to the best nut tree in the forest. But she didn't know the woods well, and she ended up getting stuck in a thorn bush." Sammy listened intently, his eyes wide with interest. Timothy continued, "Sally was stuck in the thorn bush for hours, crying for help. Fortunately, a kind deer heard her cries and came to her rescue. The deer carefully helped her out of the thorn bush, but Sally learned an important lesson that day. Rushing through life can lead to painful mistakes." Sammy nodded, realizing the wisdom in the story. "Thank you, Timothy. I'll remember that. Can you teach me about the forest and how to find the best nut trees slowly and safely?" Timothy smiled and agreed to be Sammy's mentor. Together, they explored the forest, and Sammy learned valuable lessons about patience, kindness, and the importance of embracing the journey rather than seeking shortcuts. The wise old turtle, Timothy, continued to share his wisdom with the young animals of the forest, helping them grow into wiser and more thoughtful creatures. And as the forest thrived with the knowledge passed down through the generations, the animals learned that the journey itself was just as important as the destination.